In the DS and console versions of the original Plants vs. Zombies, there lies a hidden gem of a mode that has simply been titled Versus Mode by the community. Versus Mode is a very simple idea. One player plays as plants and the other player plays as zombies. Even grandma could understand it.
What's a video game?
And to every 11-year-old, that was the tipping point for you to buy the game again if you already had it. Now you could play Plants vs. Zombies in the ugliest way possible. Legend has it, only a madman would buy the same game twice so other friends could play it through DS Download Play. This surely isn't going to boost my credit score. But in this mode lies such a complex range of ideas and strategies that no one up until 2021 has uncovered. Back in late 2020, the YouTubers of Shyguymask and It's P4P were tinkering with this mode as seen by these screenshots from the Sunflower Nation Discord server. In here, it not only reveals Shyguymask's eventual findings that starfruit is overpowered against zombies, or so he says, more on that later, but more importantly that both It's P4P and Shyguymask were able to play together online through the power of a couple PS3 emulators and Parsec. If there is a question I see time and time again, it's asking how did these two, and frankly now a growing community of people, find a way to play this game online. For context, the original is local co-op only, which is super weird in hindsight since the Xbox 360 and PS3 were the rise of online gaming. Parsec is where the magic comes in. It's a software that basically acts as the middleman that can connect controllers from thousands of miles away with little to no lag. Now of course, depending on where you live, lag can occur. The first thing Shyguymask and It's P4P found is that when one person lives in Canada and the other lives in Thailand, yeah, the connection is going to be pretty bad. But if you were like me and live in the US and you connect to someone else in a different state, there is little lag. If they live in your same state, there is virtually zero input lag. And that's how playing Plants vs. Zombies versus mode works online. With this in mind, Shyguymask and It's P4P kept this newfound knowledge and fun game mode only to themselves for about a month until January 20th of 2021, when It's P4P suggested to Shyguymask about forming a tournament with a whole bunch of PvZ content creators. And 4 days later, I got a DM from Shyguymask himself. Now before I even start, I must stress that this video is purely for the hardcore. I'm going to go into an extraneous amount of detail that someone who has bought PvZ more than 5 times would go through. It's not buying if Origin gives it to you for free because EA was feeling nice that day and only that day. I am not holding back in what I have to say, so if this is your first time watching, then I am so sorry. Also, for another heads up, the quality of the footage will range drastically. This is because the footage ranges from recording off of an original Xbox 360, the PS3 emulator, or through Parsec, which already compresses the gameplay footage down, probably for storage reasons on their end. Now then, just imagine it. I wake up thinking about how not great my day was going to be because of school. I look at my phone and I see a DM from Shyguymask asking if I had wanted to participate in a PvZ tournament. Hey, how was your day? Oh, pretty good. Shyguymask asked me if I wanted to participate in a Plants vs. Zombies versus mode tournament. I was ecstatic to say the least, so I quickly said yes, of course, and then I was thrown straight into a group chat with everybody else who was invited. And of course, I was eager to find that It's P4P himself has suggested to invite Danerade. Thanks. After joining this group chat and also figuring out how Parsec works, it was time to analyze my opponents. These, after all, are nice people, but I also had to keep in mind that these are my fellow contestants I was going up against. I want to take the time to explain how this tournament was structured and who the people are in it. So the tournament was set up in an elimination style. Everybody was to be randomized to fit this bracket. You would play rock, paper, scissors to decide who picks what side, and then the person who wins 2 out of the 3 games advances to the next part of the bracket, and the last person standing wins. Now I will say the only odd thing about the tournament is how it was not really publicly advertised. It's P4P allowed us to live stream our games, but with no announcement, the general viewer probably didn't know what was going on a lot of the time. That is why during my live streams I tried to explain things the best I could in my usual bumbling way I do, trying to catch people up since I was really the only one telling the world that this thing was even happening. No shade toward It's P4P in any way. I just want to explain my main reason for making this video, which is to further clarify what all happened during this event that really is somewhat explained in bits and pieces across multiple videos and such. With that all out of the way, let's talk about everybody involved. Shyguymask is probably the biggest name you recognize with his very unique text-based commentary style, making primarily challenge videos in games like the Mario and Luigi series, Terraria, and of course, Plants vs. Zombies. Now, something you have to know about Shy Guy is that he does not talk in his videos, obviously, as you might be able to tell. But why is that? Well, I feel obligated to bring this up, as if you were like me and live in the United States, you forget that there's an entire country above you called Canada. This is important as Shy Guy doesn't just live in Canada, but more specifically, Quebec. Quebec is a weird part of Canada where a large majority of their population speaks French as their native language, and in many cases, the only language as a matter of fact. Now, if you live in Canada, feel free to correct me as I am not well versed in Canadian politics, and even then, if I was, I would be concerned that a teenager in the United States is reminiscing about politics in another country. But what I do know is that Quebec is basically trying to isolate itself from the rest of Canada and keep English out of Quebec as much as possible. So for Shy Guy to not be comfortable with English makes a ton of sense, as he literally grew up in an environment where English is being pushed away. With that long-winded and quite frankly unnecessary explanation out of the way, within the context of the tournament, is Shy Guy a threat? As a matter of fact, Shy Guy has proven himself to be a juggernaut when relating to PvZ. Not only is the first one to really shape the meta and the form it comes in today, but he also grasps the mechanics of this game very well. He concentrates very deeply on every round we play and makes very few mistakes. If there's one person that is going to come in my way of that first place title, it's him. Let's also not forget he has beaten PvZ1 in many hard and unconventional ways, to say the least. Let's move swiftly into our next competitor. It's P for P. I promise the rest of the explanations won't be as long or ranty as Shy Guy's was. It's P primarily streams Plants vs. Zombies mods and even has his own mod, Alternate Universe, or Alter Z for short. He has his own editor, Silvu, who produces some nice highlights that can be quite entertaining. He's also a very nice guy, so there's that going for him. Now, I must admit, I don't have much to say on It's P, as I'm not much of a streaming person myself, which may reveal why I stream every 4 to 5 months or something. Alright, next up is Redhead Gaming, who is another YouTuber you may or may not have heard of. This is in no way to bash Redhead, but when I think of him, the first thing I can think of is
Danerade, everybody. Danerade
makes some amazing content, and therefore you should subscribe and join his Discord server. Holy crap, Danerade's Discord plugins are evolving. He has officially gone mad.
Danerade.
He is another PvZ content creator, and like It's P, he focuses heavily on streaming. However, what differs greatly between the two is that Redhead focuses on the shooters of the franchise rather than the tower defense games. And even more interestingly is that he started to grow and blow up off of Battle for Neighborville. Many of you may know I'm not fond of the game, and that is the understatement of the century. But to see someone grow into something from it was nice to see. I must say though, his thumbnails are really good and he has got some great skill in graphic design. If there was an award for most out of place and random comment, I would receive it just about now. Next up is GeneralJon, who at the time the tournament had taken place was a fairly obscure name among most viewers. They are another PvZ content creator who is really skilled at these games, going so far as to beat multiple PvZ Plus, a really unfair mod, levels without sunflowers. They know a thing or two about how to play these games, so better be on the lookout for them. And guess who I play against in the tournament first? Our first and only Twitch streamer in the group, Super, is actually a PvZ1 speedrunner. It brought a new layer of uniqueness to the 8 selected to be participating in the tournament, and his inclusion kind of rounded out the content creator list. I must admit, I have talked to some of these people more than others, and Super, who despite seeming like a really nice guy in the DMs I saw, I barely got to talk to him, primarily because he proved to be quite tricky to get a hold of because surprisingly, he actually has a life. PlasmasheeP is next to talk about. Plasma kind of plays a bunch of roles in the PvZ community. They are a moderator in a big PvZ server, they are pretty active in other servers, and he has his own channel where he just does whatever he wants. Just an active member of the community, really. Wow, gee whiz, you go, Plasma! Lastly, we have Bulbasaur represent. I would like to start off by saying, if you have never heard of Bulba before, I really don't blame you. No offense, Bulba, if you're watching this. Arguably the most obscure out of the pack, they are are a moderator of the Shyguymask Discord server, and they also do a handful of PvZ1 speedruns here or there. Very nice person though, I must say. I got to know them a little bit through this tournament. Hopefully that gives you a better idea of the fools that are about to be taken down. Before we start heading into the meta though, I want to talk about some honorable mentions, or more specifically, those who didn't get in for one reason or another. I have just 2 people I want to briefly mention. There's actually a bit of confusion that literally no one realized there was an inconsistency about, but I will mention it now. It's that on Twitter, Redhead Gaming mentioned that Explodin' Apple was to be involved, which I can confirm was true. Explodin' Apple seemed like a very good pick, as he had played a lot of versus mode before. It might be a strong contender for the first place finish, is what I would say if he was in the tournament, but alas, he wasn't, so we shall never know. The long story short of it all is that plans fell through because his internet wasn't fast enough to make it work. We thought of Danerade, who is another PvZ content creator, which I know I will get a lot of flack for saying this, but he is basically the Shyguymask of PvZ. Oh, I'm sorry. He does PvZ challenge videos with the same text-based commentary type videos, though he has been talking in his recent videos, which is nice. Anyways, we wanted him in the tournament, but we had no way of contacting him. No Discord, no Twitter, not even a business email. A collab eventually did happen months later after the tournament, but speaking of that video, that brings up a good segue into a huge misconception regarding this mode. Time and time again, I would see in Shy Guy's comments, if Danerade were in this tournament, you would have lost. Which, obviously, we will never know what could have happened, but it kind of happened, so that's probably a good indicator of what was likely to happen, and guess what, Danerade fans? He lost. I mean, I'm not surprised. Not to discredit Danerade as a skilled PvZ player, but his loss stems from the fact that just because you are good at the base game does not in any way correlate to versus mode. They are just 2 completely separate things, and to compare them like that is not right. So Danerade lost because he went into versus mode with very little understanding of it. I cannot stress this enough. Versus mode is an extremely complex mode that has yet to be cracked. There isn't one unstoppable setup. There are so many different ways to outbeat your opponent, which is a great thing. Even if both sides pick the same lineup over and over again, every game turns out to be a little different. Now, I've been going on and on about how versus mode is hard to understand, yada yada, but how and why, you might be asking? Well, I have compiled together my keyword is my tier list, and I'm going to explain all the important takeaways. So here is my explanation of the Plants vs. Zombies versus mode meta. Before going through plants and zombies individually, let me explain how the dang game mode is even structured. So, as previously mentioned, one side is plants and the other side is zombies, and the objective of zombies is to reach the house, and the goal of plants is to knock down 3 target zombies. Zombies win most by quickly getting to the house as fast as possible. The longer the match goes on, the less likely zombies can win, which is code for plants are kind of OP in this game because if they stall long enough, they basically win automatically. Let's start off by talking about the zombie side, as there are less of them to go over, and this should be relatively faster than plants. Also keep in mind, I won't be going over every single plant and zombie. I can't go into every single little detail. Alright, onto the zombies. This is my definitive zombie tier list. Are you serious? Now, the first thing that might stick out to you is Pogo. Despite his high cost of 225 brains, Pogo is actually a very dangerous zombie in this mode, mostly because it puts plants on defense way more than what is typical for them. For starters, Pogo is the fastest zombie in the game, so pretty threatening already. And the best part about him is that if plants have no instants or offensive plants to deal with him, you win. Think of it this way, if I pick Pogo, the easiest way to take him out is with a squash, right? But what if I pick other zombies like football or ladder? And if plants use their squash on them, then that leaves Pogo vulnerable to sweep the board and automatically win. Okay, so let's say I don't use the squash and keep it for Pogo. Well, the other zombies are probably going to overwhelm you, and you're still going to lose. And most importantly, Pogo is the biggest counter for Puffshrooms. Without getting ahead of myself too much, Puffshroom is one of the most popular picks because of its aggressive early game. Well, if you want to fight back against Pogo, I just gotta pick a lot of instants and then I win. And then I pick Puffshroom and oh, you can't pick both, as if you pick Puffshroom, you still have to pick another offensive plant, which means you only have 2 seed slots left for instants, which may or may not be enough to counter Pogo. So basically, when plants pick Puffshroom, pick Pogo, because they most likely don't have enough instants to beat you. It also just happens to have the most clutch plays, which is a nice addition.
No, you got it. You win. He can't retaliate. Oh, maybe he can't. Oh, barely. Oh. New hero. Absolute hero. Okay. There we go.
Next up is Basic Zombie, and to all you casuals, you might be squirming in your seats right now. Why would I want to pick Basic when I could just pick the expensive big guys? Well, in a nutshell, because of Basic's fast recharge and cheap cost, they are very spammable. And zombies win during the early game the most because plants are kind of overpowered in this game. So yeah, Basic, literally a necessity for zombies. Who knew that this, or even this don't compare to this? Gargantuar, I feel, is pretty self-explanatory. It's a huge threat for the plant side, and all of their attention has to go to it. If untreated properly, it can absolutely demolish a plant's momentum. Also, the Imp can be a very powerful tool, in some cases even more threatening than the Gargantuar itself. Bungie is definitely going to raise a couple eyebrows, but let me explain to you why Bungie is the most slept on zombie in this mode. It is easily the hardest zombie to use properly, and because of its huge difficulty curve, to most people, it's easy to toss it in low tier like C or D. There are actually two ways to use Bungie. Either you can use it as what I call a deterrent, or as a stale/block. Here's what I mean by that. Let's start with the deterrent way. Let's say we have a football zombie coming in an open lane. Open lane means no lawnmower. Plants have a spare walnut to use, but notices zombies have their cursor over Bungie. The plants know that if they place the walnut, zombies will simply put down a Bungie and the football zombie will get through. And if they don't do anything, they still lose. Now, this is a pretty cut and dry example, but I think you get the point. The second use of Bungie is to block something. Now, this is where the extremely smart strategies and quick thinking come into play. Take this starfruit and Basic Zombie, for instance. Most people would just deem it as a lost cause and would leave the zombie be to die by the starfruit. However, you can place a Bungie on the starfruit and it will absorb the damage of the starfruit, leaving the Basic Zombie to continue to walk, taking over the lawnmower in the process. That is the complexity this mode is all about. Utilizing certain game mechanics like this to win is instrumental in winning this tournament. Digger is kind of an interesting one, as just like a lot of these zombies, something I once disregarded as pretty bad and unreliable actually has some merit to it. Basically, this is another one of those zombies like Bungie that you have to use correctly. One thing that you can do is pick Digger early so that it forces plants to change their strategy to accommodate for the Digger choice. This is what we call the counter pick, and what it means basically is forcing your opponent to pick or not pick certain plants or zombies. A good example is Pogo, as if plants pick Pushroom, your immediate pick should be Pogo, i.e. a counter pick to combat what plants choose. Or even the opposite. Let's say I like to pick Screen Door, but if plants pick Cabbage, that severely limits my options as zombies, which throws off zombies considerably because they might have to change up their lineup. Even better is if you can keep your opponent uneasy or skeptical of what you are picking. Let's say I know I will pick Cabbage last. Zombies know that plants have to pick another offensive plant, but because they don't know what plant, they might play it on the safe side and pick something like a Buckethead or Football. I'd argue that picking your arsenal is the most important part of the game, because you could go into it with this unstoppable strategy, and what if they pick something that counters what you have greatly? With this in mind, picking Digger early on can force plants to pick certain plants to combat Digger, like Starfruit or even Magnet Shroom. Magnet Shroom is a tough pick though, as that can actually benefit zombies. All you have to do is place down something with metal to attract the Magnet Shroom, wait a few seconds to place down the Digger, and if you did your timing right, he will actually come up right in front of the house and either take out a lawnmower or get into the house. This strategy only really works though if your opponent doesn't know about it, so that's why Digger is in B tier. In the lower tiers, Zomboni probably sticks out to you, and many people don't like that I put it so low. It simply is not an aggressive play and has a slow recharge, and is just really slow in general. Any instant will take it out and can be a damaging blow to zombies, as it can kill any and all momentum. Now keep in mind that just because a zombie is lower on the tier doesn't automatically make it a bad choice. There are many times when Conehead could be helpful, but isn't an amazing pick overall. In addition, it all boils down to play style. I like to play my games at a fast pace, which is why I gravitate toward picking and liking zombies such as Ladder, because it adds a layer of aggression and momentum that not all other zombies have. Alrighty then, on to the plants tier list. Would you believe me if I said Potato Mine is S tier in this mode?
Oh, shut the f*** up!
So now we are on to plants, and oh boy, this is where the angry mob begins to head my way. So let's start off with good old Puffshroom. I talked about Puffshroom earlier in the zombies part of the video, but in a nutshell, zombies win most often by winning early game. Puffshroom is a great counter to the zombies' main strategy, as its cheap and spammable nature makes it great for early game plants. This is mainly because coffee beans cost has been permanently reduced to 25, which basically means Puffshroom is 25 sun, unlike the 75 sun they would normally be in the adventure mode during the day levels. Now, when the tournament happened, it was forever taken that Puffshroom was a necessary pick for plants, and if you didn't pick it, you would lose every time as plants. What if I told you that Puffshroom isn't required every time you play as plants now?
What?
I mean, it's still a valid pick, but not at the required status it once was. Squash, on the other hand, while not required, basically is. It's one of only a few instances that has a 30-second recharge, which makes it oh so annoying for zombies. Got a push going on the zombie side, bam, Squash stops all your momentum. Cabbage, now what? Cabbage is stupidly good in this game, and I would like to say it now, I take credit for popularizing picking Cabbage at least during the tournament. Why do I say that? Probably because everybody and their niece and nephew thought it would be funny to run Cabbage in their lineup. Yeah, probably should have copyrighted picking Cabbage. Think of it this way. It is a counter towards zombies like Screen Door and Ladder, has decent DPS, is relatively cheap, and can even bypass Graze when attacking a Gargantuar, getting in just a couple of extra hits in. Probably the second best offensive plant in the game. What is first, you might ask? Christ. Repeater is kind of broken in this game if you didn't know. They gave it a reduced sun cost of 150, which, why? Now it's even better. Well, while at an okay price, it has one of the highest DPSs in the game and can just obliterate through zombies and Graves fast. Put more than one in the same lane and it becomes a worse situation for the zombies. Split P might straight up confuse some of you, because how can what really was a bad plant in vanilla actually be viable? For you see, kind viewer, that's why it's once again important to understand that these two modes are two completely separate entities. You can effectively kill zombies in front and behind. Though it has its uses, I'm not a big fan of this one. You really need to have a good economy. Economy means sun production, to be able to use this plant effectively, because the zombies are gonna be eating through your split peas, because by design they have to place them a little closer up than you probably want. But Danerade, I thought Shy Guy proved Shroom is viable on his second channel. Are you defying his opinion? Yes. And if you want to know why, just look at this. The main problem with Shroom is that it sounds good on paper, a cheap spammable unit that, unlike Puffshroom, actually has range, but just let zombies have a little bit of momentum and it's all over for plants.
You suck!
I didn't want it to come down to this, but we gotta talk about the elephant in the room. I put garlic in A tier. What is wrong with me? No, actually, it's the fact that I begrudgingly put starfruit in A tier. You can all shut up now. Oh, sorry. That was the old tier list. Here is the new tier list. Oh, wait, starfruit is still in B tier? Oh, but the list probably isn't ordered. Wait, what's that fine print say? Tier list is listed accurately in correlation to Danerade's opinions. What is with this man? If you have been following the streams or even talked to me on Discord, you know I am not the biggest fan of starfruit. It's not that it's necessarily bad, it's just bad. And boy is it overrated. Exhibit A, it is expensive. You're constantly going to be spending sun and brains as both sides are trying to aggressively attack each other as fast as possible. So saving up isn't really ideal, but with starfruit, yeah, pump the brakes, old man, because starfruit got a cost nerf, now costing 175. Yikes. So if you play the early game right, then plants cannot do much because their main offensive plant is starfruit, which is usually paired up with Puffshroom because plants need some kind of cheap unit to compensate for the expensive, stupid starfruit. Exhibit B, you need a lot of them for starfruit to be good. We will soon see this reason put into effect, but starfruit is powerful in groups or clusters, not individually. So gathering up even just 4 starfruits is quite the task. So why the B tier then? It must have some value then. Well, by that definition, you could probably find value in just about everything. I like his mustache. Well, except this guy. I don't know if you could find any value in this one. I want this to be a definitive tier list, and sometimes you have to look at things objectively and admit to something that you were previously wrong about. The reason why I and many others previously wrote off starfruit is because we weren't playing it correctly. Shyguymask, the one who was adamant about the whole starfruit is top tier thing, plays it really well. Some people just know how to play certain combinations better than others. Think of it this way. I mentioned how I'm not a big fan of split P and I don't really like it. It didn't connect with me, but for others they can still play split P very well. And now Now for another example, playing Bungie is one of the hardest to grasp and understand. It's also risky to even choose, and those 2 points alone lead many people to look for other options. But I was one of the few who gravitated toward it, which is why it appears higher on my list than many others. But to circle back to starfruit, I don't know, I might just be a stubborn man, so expect to see a comment from Shyguymask explaining why everything I just said is wrong.
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Doomshroom is one I saw time and time again I got suggested I pick, but I didn't, and you want to know why? Because we banned it. Having a nuke at your disposal is only just a little bit broken, so yeah, no Doomshroom. And now, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Only took us 5,000 words to get to this point. Now that all of you have a pretty detailed explanation on this mode, it's time to explain what went down. The tournament was to take place on the weekend of February 5th through the 7th, which basically gave us a week or so to plan the event. During the weekday, I would grind out games, practicing with anyone willing to play with me. Obviously, I had school, so some of those nights were pretty long, but I also was determined to be crowned champion of this Plants vs. Zombies vs. mode tournament. ITZP had set up a bracket, which looks something like this. I also had set up an entire schedule, which, oh boy! Here is the problem with setting up this whole tournament. Let's say when one person in America is sleeping, someone else overseas is either at work or school. And when the Americans are awake, they had to go to work or school while everyone else overseas has to sleep. Do you see the problem here? Anyways, after a week of grinding and talking back and forth, changing, reworking, it was finally time for the first few games to be played. I wanted to live stream my games since like no one else was going to, which I felt was kind of a missed opportunity, so I set my eyes to stream Friday night. Already, things started in a frenzy because John and I couldn't connect properly. After figuring that out and streaming an hour late, everything was going pretty smoothly until... I don't know what I was talking about beforehand before the... Oh no, what happened? Yeah, so the curse of the something has to go wrong during a Danerade stream started here. The emulator just kept crashing and crashing, and of course, when you're live, you're under enough stress already. So all I could really do is just keep trying and trying. I think the problem is that my computer just couldn't handle all the stress on the CPU. So the new plan was to stream the next day, have Shyguymask host and act as the middleman basically, and if I were to win directly afterwards, we would jump straight into the semifinals match. So already what a panic I was in when John wasn't on Discord in time for the stream. Shyguy's time zone is ahead of me, so it was getting pretty late for him. Shout out to him for staying up for the stream. So just at the right time, John shows up and we start the stream. Yeah, still though, wouldn't be a Danerade stream if something didn't go wrong. I started it and literally no one could talk in the chat for some reason. And to this day, I have zero clue what went wrong. I basically just rebooted Streamlabs and everything was back to normal. Anyways, it's time to get into the games. To decide who would pick what side, we played a game of rock, paper, scissors, and you bet I won. This was integral in winning, more because of the fact that plants are simply easier to win as. Picking plants first would already give me an advantage going in. John picks a pretty interesting lineup, but what's weird is that cabbage pulp pick. Don't know why, since picking repeater would have been a better choice. I get a bit of a bad start since I placed my puff streams closer to the zombie side for some reason. I don't know, the pressure and playing it all live might have been getting to me. I end up assembling my offense pretty well since John didn't really do much to play aggressively. John just kind of set whatever without any rhyme or reason, which would end up costing them the round, which means, yep, we won the first game, baby. We switched sides, which means I am zombies, so it's going to be a bit harder to win this one. I was feeling pretty good though after the last game. I picked both ladder and newspaper, which is quickly countered by cabbage pulp, which stinks! John's lineup was looking to be like mine last game, but I was still unsure what they were gonna pick, so I was at a bit of a roadblock in what I should pick. I ended up picking Buckethead, anticipating John to pick Magnet Shroom, which I was right. So here was the extremely risky and probably stupid plan. Basically, I would use the Buckethead as bait and it would attract the Magnet Shroom. And then I send in a ladder zombie, but remember, the Magnet Shroom has a bucket from the Buckethead, so it would be occupied with that. Hey, Danerade, couldn't John just place 2 Magnet Shrooms and your whole plan would fall apart? Yeah, I had a pole vaulter get extremely close to winning it for me, and even though it didn't get far enough for the win, it still helped me in the long run as it kept John busy and distracted for a while. Anytime John placed a magnet shroom, I would spam any of my small units that just couldn't be stopped. Magnet shroom is useless against a pole vaulter or a newspaper, for instance. The critical part of all of this is the lack of 2 lawnmowers here. As zombies, if you can somehow use up just 1 lawnmower that plants have, that is huge. As the game goes on, it becomes much harder for zombies to be able to get far enough to a lawnmower, simply because plants presumably would have their offense up already. And so, as plants, it should be your job to not sacrifice lawnmowers if you can. With this in mind, this reason alone is a big contributor to John's struggle. Now, John's got 2 rows they have to cover, no matter what. With just a little bit of zombie spam, I claimed victory in the quarterfinals match. Let's go, baby! And then you try to kill Magnet Shroom with Ladder Zombie and all the small zombies. We're going to the semifinals, baby! Woo! For the transition period, I made a video which was basically to say, beep beep, better watch out, Shyguymask, I'm coming. You see, the whole Aladdin theme I keep on having on this channel couldn't even escape this tournament. So as I am riding off the coattails of last game, my adrenaline and heart rate was pretty high as we were jumping straight into the semifinals match. But you want to know something? I won rock, paper, scissors again, let's go! Plasma was zombies and picked a lot of weaker zombies, so my mindset was that he was going to mercilessly spam them. I still picked Cabbage. Man, I must have just been in love with Cabbage at the time. But then Plasma throws a curveball at me and picks Disco. Now what's weird about this lineup is that nothing is really strong. There's no win condition. I decided to take another risk in the form of Fume Shroom. Up to this point, I had never used Fume Shroom, but as long as I could assemble a couple of Fume Shroom rows, there really could be nothing Plasma could do. Plasma was doing a pretty good job aggressively pushing in the beginning, which was a stark contrast to John, who was pretty underwhelming as zombies. A good pole vaulter play by Plasma throws me for a bit of a loop, but I end up handling it fine. Plasma got a bit of good RNG with this cone head, as zombies have different speeds. Every time you place a zombie, they have slightly varying speeds, and this one ended up being relatively fast, which is a problem for a row with 2 cabbage poles like this. Plasma aggressively sends in a disco zombie, and this is where things start to head south. The problem I had stems from the fact that Plasma has a full set of Graze, which means he has a constant supply of brains, and it was quite hard for me to keep up. It was the cone heads, man. Something that usually isn't that bad was quite deadly in this game. Plasma just didn't let up with the disco zombies as well, and at this point I was getting quite worried. I was playing catch up until it happened. Sudden death. Sudden death is interesting in this game as everything loads 3 times as fast and all the brain and sun production is ramped up. The funny part about this though is that plants have an overwhelming advantage when sudden death happens because they can just spam as many plants as they want and they basically automatically win. This was the chance at redemption and comeback. Of course though, if you were watching live, it surely didn't look like I was gonna win this one, but I knew better. If I had just pushed through and planted enough fume shrooms, then we would be golden. It took a while, and with a couple of close calls, the tide started to turn, and then it was all over. I literally had an unstoppable plant lineup and the game was declared mine. So really, what went wrong for Plasma? Watching back through the footage, honestly, he didn't play bad. All he needed was a football zombie really, and that could have been the end of me. After such a nail-biting game, boy did it feel even more stressful to play as zombies. I mean, Plasma clearly knew what they were doing, and now I was in the harder position of playing as zombies. Plasma also plays the draft well by not picking the attacking plants till the very end, which of course makes me uneasy. I think it out for a long while, but go with Pogo simply because he is fun to win with. Plasma picks starfruit. Here is the problem, is that even though at this time I believe starfruit was bad, I had never practiced against starfruit, so if Plasma had something up his sleeve, I could be in trouble. Though an odd pick for sure, no puffshroom means he was already going to struggle in the early game, which I definitely took advantage of. All Plasma could do was place instants to stall me. Starfruit is a really expensive investment, so puffshroom is almost essential to pair it with. Yeah, so I won. Anticlimactic? Yes. Stupidly fun to win with Pogo? No, actually, because it's not stupid, it's strategical and rewarding, that's what it is. This is when it all dawned on me. It's time. Needless to say, everybody was hyped. People were picking sides. Of course, since I was live streaming, my chat was giving me nothing but support the whole time. It was tense. So what went down exactly? We started off by playing good old rock, paper, scissors, and I won again. Ha ha! I also must clarify, to make it more intense, the finals would be going 3 out of 5 instead of 2 out of 3. Since I won rock, paper, scissors, I went and picked plants, of course, and admittingly, the draft wasn't too awfully interesting, just kind of the same usual stuff, with the only difference being that Shyguymask picked Gargantuar. Ooh, how scary of him. Shyguy played pretty well as zombies by putting pressure on the second lane by placing 2 zombies, as 1 pushroom isn't enough. Though overall, I handled the situation very well, as my abundance of sunflower planting got me to be able to afford both a cabbage pole and squash quite quickly. Shyguy simply plays too slowly here in the beginning, which is how I was able to get a nice lineup of plants. I do end up having to sacrifice a lawnmower, which would prove quite beneficial in Shyguy's favor. Placing down a Gargantuar in a lane without a lawnmower is pooping your pants over. It's scary. What Shyguy is basically trying to do is distract me with the Gargantuar while spamming small units down on the bottom and force me into a gridlock of sorts, where I can't handle both at the same time. I was playing dumb and for some reason hesitated to place down my jalapeno, which caused me to lose my cabbage pole. Shyguy counters by placing a football zombie, which doesn't do much since I had a squash ready. Another Gargantuar gets sent in, which no biggie, right? I placed down a squash ahead of time, mainly so that if Shyguy places down a football zombie, I would be able to counter it. But this squash, ladies and gentlemen, is where things start to get a bit complicated. Now, to understand what just happened, we need to analyze squash for a bit. Squash is, well, calling it weird would be an understatement. It's almost as though it has a mind of its own. Its priority and what it wants to squash is inconsistent, to say the least. And we see it front and center here in the tournament. The fact that the squash did a big, long reach like this is unlikely to happen. This unlucky squash move, I kid you not, was my downfall. This is what determined my fate. This is just plain old stupid. Because guess what? I lost the game. It's not fun to talk to people when they ask, why did you lose in the first game against Shyguymask? Because God hates me, that's why. I needed to stall the Gargantuar and use all my instants on it because remember, no lawnmower. But then Shyguy used this opportunity and charged my other lanes quite aggressively. Now from your perspective, it looks hopeless for me, but there was a little blessing that was about to happen just about now. Blam, sudden death. And remember, sudden death basically means plants win, right? Nope. I forgot that sudden death is OP against plants and basically I didn't do anything. I just gave up. I am so pissed at myself from 5 months ago. Think about it. If squash only has a cooldown of 10 seconds and your sun production increases tremendously, you have everything in your favor to get a comeback. But no. Instead, I am so panicked about what happened, I don't seize the opportunity to do any of that. Alas, I lost. It's in the past, and all I can really do is move forward and win the next game. Problems begin in the fact that you wouldn't know this while I was streaming, but I was straight up shaking. So stressed that my mind was going kaput. The draft was going pretty normal until I picked Digger for some odd reason. Why didn't I pick Pogo? I picked it last game and it did me well. Why didn't I follow suit? I just think Shyguy had won the mental battle and was controlling me. And what does he pick? Did I mention this is where my hatred for starfruit blossomed from? I could do nothing to stop Shyguy's early game, and even watching through the footage, I have zero clue how he was able able to produce so many sunflowers and puff shrooms. And I mean, Shy Guy knows how to play starfruit. What a surprise, I lost. I had mentioned this before, but I had never played against starfruit, and this was clearly not helping me. Okay, this was time to get down and dirty. This was when I was going to have this amazing comeback. I knew Shy Guy's playstyle and now could counter it. The lineup was the same as game 1, so nothing new here. But RNG strikes again as the zombie up on top is a fast one, and of course goes through and obliterates through my puff shroom. Though it was kind of my fault for placing it farther up, but still. I straight up could not think anymore. This newspaper was eating up my cabbage pole, and I thought it was going to eat through the entire thing. It didn't though, and therefore I just wasted my squash. The writing was on the wall. I couldn't do it. Everything had got caught up in my head, and I had officially lost the Plants vs. Zombies vs. Mo tournament. 40 minutes later, and here we are. Looking back upon my experience, all I can say is that I regret absolutely nothing. Despite my chances probably being higher if I had not streamed the experience, it added engagement to the whole event. And of course, a bit of a time capsule of sorts involving the whole thing. While it sucked that I lost, trust me guys, I really wanted to win. I wanted the underdog win for this one, but it provides room for improvement next time. There were many factors I could have changed to make my experience easier. For one, the already mentioned live streaming surely wasn't helping my nerves, but also going to bed at like 2 AM practicing for a whole week and planning this event definitely didn't help my mental state when the weekend finally came. But that was all part of the fun, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Even if some of these things are frustrating, we have to be willing to laugh at ourselves in moments of silliness and stupidity. I had an incredible experience with such a large catalog of creators. It was easily one of the most exciting things to happen to me, not only on this YouTube channel, but to the PvZ community as well. A big thank you once again to ItsP for hosting and to everybody else who participated. I was more than honored to be a part of this event. From going from complaining about the awful Plants vs. Zombies 3 on my crappy phone editor, despite many people not even being able to play the game, God, it sounds like I'm sick, to now having nearly 60,000 of you who like to watch me rant and rave about whatever I feel like. I hope this video represents our whole experience accurately, and while this video may not be the funniest or best edited, I want to cement my experience here on my channel rather than simply just the live streams. So I hope you all enjoyed this behind the scenes and more explanation based video on this mode. I encourage you all to try versus mode for yourself. In the beginning of this video, I explained how we were able to make this event a reality. But if you'd like to go even further, you can join this Plants vs. Zombies versus mode Discord server. They have plenty of people that can help you set up versus mode, but also play with you. So if you'd really like to get good and master this mode like myself, I recommend joining it so that you can talk it up with other people who love the mode just as much as you do. Link is in the description. And before we end things out, I was thinking about something that didn't really cross my mind until now. I won every single round of rock, paper, scissors, so screw you, Shyguymask. I'm the true winner of this event.